This is Andrey Santos.
Decent ball as well from Neto. There's Andrey Santos! It's 2-0 Chelsea!
This is Youri Tielemans.
No one marking Tielemans! Oh! What glorious technique!
And this is Carlos Baleba. United's player recruitment in the post-Ferguson era has so often been criticised for being erratic and misguided, especially given the staggering £2 billion spent on transfer fees alone since 2013. But their latest moves feel different. For United, signing players with proven Premier League pedigree has become central to their recent transfer strategy. Moves for Bryan and Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha from Brentford and Wolves last summer signalled that intent. One that has been reinforced this summer by the arrival of Santos from Chelsea and Tielemans from Villa. However, even after those deals, there was still one massive gap in United's midfield. The club desperately needed to replace Casemiro, their former anchor, dual winner and physical enforcer, whose influence was instrumental in driving United to a third-place Premier League finish last season. Enter Carlos Baleba, not just another midfield signing, but the ultimate missing piece to United's game plan. But why were United so determined to sign the trio? And crucially, how exactly do they fit into this new-look midfield? It's no secret that United have invested heavily in their midfield this summer, and the logic behind those moves ties to Carrick's ambition to assemble a trio inspired by PSG's dynamic lineup of Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz and João Neves. After missing out on Matheus Fernandes, following their reluctance to meet a fixed £85 million fee which, for a relegation-bound West Ham side, borders on daylight robbery, it's hardly surprising that United pivoted toward younger, more affordable alternatives who still offer Premier League experience. In that respect, Santos fits the bill and even shares stylistic similarities with Fernandes, as both are adept progressive passers and combine that with a strong ability to win their duels out of possession. One of United's key objectives this summer has been to find the right midfield partner for Kobbie Mainoo. But as far as midfielders go, Mainoo is, first and foremost, a ball carrier. His most impactful moments come when he collects the ball deep and drives forward, evading pressure with close control rather than by splitting lines with line-breaking passes. It's a valuable trait and one Michael Carrick will certainly look to spam, but it can also turn United's build-up play into a one-trick pony. Because if Mainoo gets crowded out or dispossessed, there is often no alternative way to progress the ball but to hoof it upfield to Sesko and inshallah. Santos offers a solution to this tactical dilemma, being a pass-first midfielder ranked in the 99th percentile among Premier League midfielders for progressive passes completed. In that sense, he complements rather than replicates Mainoo, as he ranks in just the 19th percentile for progressive carries, preferring to release the ball early. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, we'd be incredibly grateful if you subscribed. Your support helps us grow and continue creating the content you love. Stylistically, Tielemans is closer to Casemiro than you might think. He has all the hallmarks of an anchoring midfielder, comfortable in the build-up, press-resistant in tight spaces, and disciplined in his use of the ball. Out of possession too, his willingness to defend on the front foot is evident in his tackling frequency, which ranked the 6th highest among Premier League midfielders last season. Where he stands apart though is in his discipline, as across 279 appearances in the competition he has remarkably never been sent off despite picking up 28 yellow cards. Much like Casemiro, who turned 34 in February and increasingly relied on his reading of the game than on raw athleticism, Tielemans defends with intelligence. He chose his moments carefully, often inviting pressure before stepping forward decisively to regain possession. Not every midfielder can truly balance defensive discipline with attacking thrust, but Tielemans is one of the few who can. He was the catalyst behind many of Villa's attacks, fizzing passes through the lines and driving his team up the pitch, a burden that has too often rested solely on Bruno Fernandes at United. That will change with the arrival of Tielemans, who also ranked first among midfielders for passes that broke 2 lines and was second only to City's Rodri for line-breaking passes made under pressure. Clearly he is not a midfielder who settles for safe sideways passes. Carrick's arrival has seen United emphasise playing more centrally than under Amorim. His team is operating closer together in the middle of the pitch to combine with speed, and favouring half-space play more often than Amorim, who relied more on his team shifting the ball out to the wing-backs to progress the attack. Having linked up superbly with Morgan Rogers, playing 40 line-breaking passes to him in the league last season, 14 more than any other teammate. Tielemans gives United supporters every reason to be excited about the prospect of a similar partnership forming down the centre alongside Bruno. He thrives on firing passes through central spaces, and being able to do so with either foot will create a lot more angles to prize open, stubborn defences. If Bruno can receive a pass on the half-turn and drive at the opposition, those vertical passes would immediately tilt the pitch in United's favour, particularly with runners like Cunha and Mbeumo darting beyond him and pinning the back line. Even higher up the pitch, Tielemans remains a central conduit. At Villa, he frequently anticipated Ollie Watkins' runs, clipping perfectly weighted passes into his stride. On that evidence, Šeško will be creaming his pants at the thought of the crosses and through balls about to come his way. With Casemiro departing, the obvious solution for United would have been to seek a direct replacement. At his best, Casemiro's game is defined by his front-footed defensive intensity, stepping out to snuff out danger and break up attacks before they gather momentum. Crucially, his defensive steel is matched by a calmness on the ball and an ability to spray passes so perfectly weighted they could find God himself. Baleba largely profiles as a like-for-like replacement for Casemiro, sharing the Brazilian's efficiency, aggression and decisiveness in his defensive actions, albeit without his aerial goal threat. Fundamentally, Baleba is a defensive midfielder, but not in the old-school destroyer sense. Instead, his game is built less on reckless disruption and more on snuffing out danger before it develops. He screens intelligently, tracks runners with discipline and plugs gaps without leaving glaring holes in midfield. Whether he's timing a standing tackle or sliding across to win the ball, Baleba rarely looks desperate. And physically, he's a tank. Standing at 5 feet 10 inches, Baleba isn't especially tall for a defensive midfielder, but he plays with the strength and balance of someone much bigger. Sometimes he'll protect the ball with a well-timed hip check. Other times he'll use his shoulder to nudge opponents off the ball before bursting into space. Add in his ability to carry the ball through midfield and a deceptively capable passing range, and United have a player who should immediately improve their protection of central areas, while also helping them progress through the middle. In this regard, Baleba's left-footed profile could make him an ideal fit alongside Tielemans in the double pivot, while the Belgian's presence should also give him the perfect mentor to further refine his own passing. That said, for all his strength as an anchor, Tielemans often played alongside a more defensively minded partner at Villa. Baleba, therefore, would offer Tielemans more of the defensive security he previously enjoyed while playing alongside Boubacar Kamara and Amadou Onana. If Carrick decides to pair Baleba with Kobbie Mainoo, Baleba can take on a similar role as a physical enforcer for the academy graduate. Casemiro's time at United ended on a high, but nostalgia arguably makes that spell look better than it really was. In reality, his biggest impact came through rage-baiting set-piece goals rather than consistent defensive midfield control, forcing Carrick to reshape his entire system around the Brazilian's forward bursts and leaving Mainoo to carry much of the defensive burden for two players.
When you look at what Casemiro gives, it's having someone who's a tough tackler. And you really saw the best of Casemiro when the play was in front, when United would go and press. You saw the worst of him at different times when they get exposed at different times. They still got the results in transition.
Baleba, by contrast, would both help Mainoo cover more space defensively and protect the backline like a condom. The pairing with Andrey Santos, meanwhile, would present the most tactically intriguing combination. As a defensive midfielder too, Santos screens the backline, drops between his centre-backs, protects the spaces that were vulnerable last season, and breaks up attacks with authority. In doing so, he brings balance back to the midfield and separates himself from his fellow Brazilian in a way that his new teammates will be thankful for. Santos' profile would give Baleba greater freedom to roam in a box-to-box capacity that he himself has said he is fond of. No matter how you slice it, putting Baleba in the starting lineup instantly fixes United's defensive discipline. That is his true value. A player with the athleticism and defensive smarts to become a cornerstone of whatever side Carrick is looking to build.
Yeah, absolutely. The ball-playing skills of Kobbie Mainoo, and he's just developing all the time, and Youri Tielemans as well. But what Carlos Baleba represents is not just, the physical aspects of his game where he can cover ground incredibly well. He's very good at, front pushing passes through the lines as well. And we didn't see that a lot last season at Bryan. But I'm telling you, I think if they can get him back to that form we saw the season before and before that even, they have a fantastic player.
If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, don't forget to hit the notifications bell so you never miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.